You're watching the AM show. My name is Sweetie Abochi, and this is the news review segment. And my guest joining me this morning is Ishaq Ibrahim, a senior lecturer at UPSA Law School, as well as Afel Moni, but he'll join us later in the course of the conversation. Welcome aboard the AM show, Mr. Ishaq.
Good morning to you, and good morning to your viewers.
Great. So before we get into the newspapers, I'll give you a minute or two to reflect on any issue that's on top of your mind. What's on your mind this morning?
Yes, I think the most important issue that is on my mind is access to legal justice. So it's always a problem in so many countries because access to justice is quite an expensive area. So we have a clinic in the UPSA. We call it the legal clinic, whereby we try to help those who are struggling to get legal representation. But our focus is on prisoners' rights. So because of that, some of the lecturers who are called to the bar and they are practicing barristers, together with our students, we usually visit in one prison to help those who are on remand. As you may know, some people are on remand in Ghana for a very long time.
True.
Because for one or two reasons, they are not able to get to the court to process them very quickly. So it's in that respect that we really have passion for it. The clinic is helping us, and then we are asking for more volunteer lawyers to come and help us.
How long has the clinic run?
At least for the past 2 years.
Okay.
And we've been working in conjunction with the American Embassy and University of California.
Okay.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So let's get into the newspapers. I'll start with the Daily Graphic. On the front page, 2 carjackers jailed 80 years. 3 others also sentenced. Cape Coast ready for biggest ever Fetu Afashe. Provide funding sources for promises, according to Chachuchi Kata. And he's telling political parties to do that. And government releases 700 million Ghana cedis bailout funds to pay defunct financial institution customers. I want to start there because this is important to a lot of people. I don't know what you think about it, Prof. Let me read a bit of the story and then we discuss. So the Ministry of Finance has processed the release of the first tranche of 700 million Ghana cedis of the additional 1.5 billion Ghana cedi bailout funds for customers of defunct financial institutions. And the bailout would enable the Securities and Exchange Commission to pay customers of the defunct companies, including Black Sheep Fund Management Limited. And this came up in addressing the media at its monthly economic updates yesterday. The Minister of Finance, Dr. Amin Adam, was the one saying that. And he said he had instructed the Comptroller and Accountant General to release the funds to mitigate the stress on affected persons. Is this this comes as good news to most people?
Obviously, it's a welcome news. Myself, I was a victim with the GN Bank when it collapsed. Some people are struggling to live on. And because of the mismanagement, either by banks, executives, or whichever way, they were severely affected. So news of this nature will be welcoming to citizens who are still struggling for the effects of those collapsed banks. And if government is actually taking this initiative to provide some sort of refund for the lost funds, then that should be a welcome news. One other thing
that stood out for me from that presser yesterday was the total debt as it stands now. So Ghana owes 761.1 billion Ghana cedis. How did we get here? And how do we even get out of it, Prof?
Yes, so it's, I'm not an expert in the banking sector.
I'm just reflecting on the issue.
Yes. Nevertheless, it's quite a huge sums of money. I'm not really sure the total initiative government wants to take, but I believe if we take these first steps and continue that particular way, it will get to a point that people will really be properly cushioned from the effects of those things. So I'm not really averse in that particular area, but I think starting this way will be in the right direction.
Okay, let's do some other stories. 2 carjackers jailed 80 years, 3 others also sentenced. In February last year, the police in a statement announced the arrest of some suspects over alleged involvement in a series of carjacking, robbery and murder incidents across 3 regions of the country. And they've been arrested, prosecuted and jailed. I like that. Cape Coast ready for biggest ever Fetu Afashe. Let me come to the story about Chachuchi Kata and what he's telling our political party actors. Provide funding sources for promises. And I know we saw, well, 3 manifestos so far. We have the Great Transformational Plan. We have To Lead is to Serve from the camp of the NPP. And we have Resetting Ghana, Jobs, Accountability, and Prosperity. And when you look through the promises that these political parties and flag bearers are, putting forward, it doesn't come with how they intend to fund these elaborate and ambitious projects and initiatives that they are proposing. Okay. And so let me get a bit into the story, and then we will discuss. A renowned lawyer and statesman, Chachuchi Kata, has challenged the electorate to demand from political parties how they intend to fund the lofty promises in their manifestos when they win power in this year's election. Delivering a lecture at the Leadership Dialogue Series in Accra yesterday, Mr. Chikata said, looking at the country's current economic challenges, it was, quote, what I'm interested in is some discussion of the resources that are going to be potentially available to the nation and how the resources will be mobilized to implement the promises in the manifestos. I will be interested in the realism of the promises based on the potential resources, he said. But before we get into the story, let me introduce our second guest for this morning, Mr. Afel-Moni. Thank you so much for joining us.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah. I know you were you at the Media Freedom Dialogue yesterday?
I was at another function at the same time, the book launch of the NFC chairman.
Okay.
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 But I'm on my way to the bench.
Yeah. I mean, I spoke with you on Zoom yesterday, and some of the things you said were very insightful, and how we can, fix the gap, close the gap between that decline from 30 all the way to 62. It's worrying. But what's on your mind? And then we get into the stories.
100 days from today, His Excellency the Vice President, Dr. Baumia, and the Ex-President, John Dramani Mahama, will have a date with destiny. Certainly one of them will win. And as believers, the Bible teaches us in Daniel 2:21, that's the Lord changes times and seasons, and it is He alone who instills or distills kings or leaders. So our prayer should be that will be done, because one of them certainly will emerge as the next president of the Republic of Ghana. And there's nothing we can do to change what God has destined for this country.
Former GGA president there, Afel-Moni, dropping some quotations on us this morning. I like that. So we just read a story about Chachuchi Kata saying that electorate should probe or ask these flag bearers to tell us how they intend to fund these promises. I'll go to Mr. Ishaku, and then I'll come back to you, Mr. Moni. What do you make of this story or this call on electorate to probe the manifestos in terms of funding?
Yes, I think the call is in the right direction. An informed electorate will be able to make the right decision. I mean, since 1957, we had independence. There had always been promises that had been made by various parties. And even at the primaries, one of the problems of our electorate is usually that they are not well informed, or they don't even know the role they must be playing in trying to scrutinize some of these manifestos. Some of them, these manifestos, if you look at them, yes, a lot of promise has been made. And are they really deliverable? And even sometimes, the way they explain it, you can take it from the way some of the flag bearers explain some of the items that are in their manifesto. You ask yourself, do they themselves really understand their own manifestos?
Like what?
A good example would be, I've listened to the former president, John Dramani Mahama, explaining the 24 hours economy, for example, where he said, within the 24 hours economy, 9 clubs will be open 24/7. You ask yourself, does a vice president, the former president really know what a 9 club is? Even the name 9 would have given you a clue for you to know that it is something meant for the night. Is it that it is something meant for the night?
But, Prof, it wouldn't be the first time, we wouldn't be the first, country to be doing this. Elsewhere, other places in European...
No, I'm not saying there's no 24 hours
have,
economy.
Yeah, no,
Let's get
I'm
this.
talking about the nightclubs or clubs running in the daytime.
A nightclub will be open 24 hours.
Yes, which means during the day you can go to the nightclub.
Then that's not a nightclub, that's just a club. But the moment you put the word nightclub in it, and again he said hotels will be open 24 hours. If I'm the electorate, I'll ask myself, is this a business decision or a government decision to decide how the private sector operates? So what a government would probably do is to enable the private sector to strive to the extent that the private individual is struggling to get more hands. In that case, you will be open for extended hours, and eventually you will be opening 24/7 because there are more customers to serve. It is not for government to tell you how the private sector will really operate. It will be a business decision for them. So me as an electorate, I'll try to find out. When they say there will be 24 hours economy, what exactly do they mean?
They mean...
And some of the hotels are already opening 24/7.
Hours, yeah.
Hospitals are opening. But there are other areas. Can we really benefit from them opening 24/7? Look at Ministry of Finance or Ministry of Education.
You don't think it's possible?
No, I mean, elsewhere. Look, the Chinese have a proverb that only a fool learns from their mistakes. Other people have made mistakes for you to learn from. So let's go to the advanced country and see how they operate. For example, I have the benefits of living in Britain more than 20 years. Look at how the British economy operates. It's a mature economy. Yes, the hotel sector and other sector, hospital, are very vibrant in the night because there's a need for them. Those that are not vibrant in the night, those that have to even operate in a more secured environment.
But Prof, what I'm thinking is that 24-hour economy policy or proposal is a business model. And according to what the former president says, one job, 3 people, 3 shifts, right? Yes. So it means that at every point, even if you take factory workers, for example, the same factory job, 3 people come in round the clock to do the same job. It means they're earning salaries. And I think if there's a demand for it, we will be able to supply.
Yes.
Right?
So if there's
you could argue that if the Ghanaian people decide that there is a demand for this, we have the people who are about 2 million people are unemployed. Is that not a good thing?
It is a good thing to have a 24 hours economy, but as I said, there will be a business need for it. It's not usually government that decide whether such and so business should open.
But it's a business model that institutions can decide to on board with or not.
So
and he says those who will on board will get some incentives.
So the government should start with policy that would expand the private sector more.
Okay.
If you do not expand the private sector and just have a policy of 24 hours, how does it operate? And as I said, we already have it.
All right. Hold for me. Let me come to Mr. Moni. Mr. Moni, Chajikata says we should probe. And then there's this issue of 24-hour economy. What are your thoughts?
I think the media community have a foremost responsibility to probe more than ever before all the promises made by politicians. Instead, journalism is about asking questions. And ours is to ask all the questions on behalf of the consumers of media content so that they can make informed choices, especially at the polls. Most often we allow politicians, or what we do is to amplify or parrot what they say without scrutinizing their promises. We all know the circumstances economically in which we find ourselves. So if a politician promises the moon or heaven, ours is to find out, subject that promise to the tightest scrutiny to ensure that we are convinced that this is possible. Most often, sometimes for whatever reasons, some journalists are in there to dance to the tune of politicians. Others, others will do their own thing without. Others are in for the wrong reasons, because the entry point of journalism is so loose. There's massive invasion by all kinds of people with all kinds of motives.
Right.
But this is the time for us more than ever before. As I said, we have 100 days for us to decide who who has the best fit to lead this nation. So between now and the D-Day,
we should be asking the right questions.
Than ever before.
Yeah.
Ask the questions, probing questions, and not leading questions. We saw what happened at the media encounter by the vice president. Some journalists went there to advertise their mediocrity. Others went there to...
I saw some comments on Twitter X, and they said, why are journalists clapping when the vice president said some things? We should not be clapping. Should we not be clapping at some of the things?
No, that is totally alien.
Really?
Alien to our profession, totally alien. It's even a high treason, art of high treason for journalists. But I think it was the party...
okay, so the group that came with the party.
The group.
Okay.
And why they were even there is another question. Why they were even allowed. I saw some high-profile state officials who were there, and maybe to lend support.
Of support, yeah.
But they defeated the purpose of being there by clapping. It rendered the whole thing something else. So we're all learning. It said that even in the grave, we learn to rest in peace. So I believe the handlers of His Excellency, the Vice President, will take this as a crucible,
right,
and shape up for the next encounter. Okay,
let me quickly rush through this paper and I'll come to you, gentlemen. 2024 school selection process underway, GES is saying, and this is important information for our audience. And the 2024 school selection process for basic education certificate examination candidates has commenced in Accra, and the exercise, which started on August 28th, will end on September 4th. Take note. 2024, in a statement signed by the Acting Director of Schools and Instruction Division of the Ghana Education Service, Mr. Dia, the service urged parents and guardians to be actively involved in the exercise to ensure a smooth placement process this year. Show NPP red card on December 7, according to Mahama. He's urging voters reject politics of division for peaceful elections. And let me see what's on the back. EC meets NDC on September 6th. Okay. The Electoral Commission will meet officials of the National Democratic Congress of September 6th to address concerns of the NDC on the Provisional Voters Register. And I mean, it's not just reading the story in the paper. My own colleagues here in the newsroom have had issues on, their names being removed from where they registered to other stations with no explanation, and you call for clarity and they tell you that you have to go to somewhere else to rectify the situation. Challenges about people even not able to verify their details and all that. So I think it's a good call that the EC wants to meet, and it shouldn't just be meeting the NDC. It's not only the NDC that has this problem. Other ordinary Ghanaians are having this problem. Maybe they should have an open forum where we, the electorate, gets to tell them what our issues are, and then they can start fixing the problem. But I'll come to you, Mr. Moni. Let me start with you, Prof. Yes. What do you make of this? I
mean, electoral integrity is always important. For you to elect the right people, people will need to have the opportunity, and the Constitution have already guaranteed it. So I think, as you said, whatever step the Electoral Commission would use to ensure electoral integrity, they should do so. I think the NDCs are going there because they have requested. I've seen a video footage of them making complaints about people's names being moved from Tamale and I think to Upper East region, which is really a concern. They need to investigate to get to the bottom of it, to find out what went wrong. And if they have to rectify quickly before January election, it will be in the call for the right direction.
Right.
But want people who are elected to really be elected based on merit, not based on electoral tactics.
Yeah. Mr. Moni, like you rightly said, 100 days.
100 days, yes. I think this is a time for the EC to resolve all the lingering issues surrounding elections. The freeness and fairness of elections are not determined by what happened on the D-Day. All the processes should pass the tests of transparency, integrity, responsibility, and all that. So it's a call in the right direction for NDC to demand answers from the Electoral Commission. This is normal because the NDC is a human institution, and with all human institutions, perfection is an impossible goal. But at the same time, they should have a listening ear take on board all the concerns, all the criticism. It said that criticism is a gift. So they should listen to all the parties, take them, and then sit down. It's a good idea that NDC has sent to IPAC.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that posture was inimical to democratic progress, and now that they've changed their stance, this is a time for AC to engage them more, as well as other parties, so they will all be on the same page and allow the electorate to decide.
At the end of the day, the decision or the winner should reflect the interests and choice of the people. Yeah. Let's do your paper now, Mr. Moni. And that's the new finder.
New finder, 700 million cedis released to states Securities and Exchange Commission.
Yeah, we got into that story. That is for the defunct financial institutions.
Defunct, I think this cash is like oxygen. They need it at this time. They haven't gone through hell. The hellish experiences should be consigned to the dustbin of history. And we should also learn that never again should we allow a group of people who hide behind such enterprises to fleece the ordinary Ghanaian. Gold for oil policy needs reform, and this comes from Dr. Siama. So questions have been raised about this gold for oil, and His Excellency the Vice President has touted this intervention, gold for oil. According to him, our economy was teetering on the verge of collapse, but it took the intervention and the gold for oil to ensure that we stay afloat economically. But others have raised issues about the gold for oil policy, as well as the World Bank. Yeah. So this is a time to also subject it to all kinds of scrutiny to ensure that the nation is not shortchanged in any shape or form.
Right. Prof. Ibrahim, do you have reflections on the gold for oil policy that needs reform, as the story is saying? Or should we...
Okay, the gold for oil policy, I think I've heard the Vice President spoken about it, how successful it was in actually preventing Ghanaian economy from total collapse when we were having these exchange problems and then the rate was going up. And I think they also experimented with MTN, tried to send dividends to their shareholders abroad. I think it is, as he said, it's a new thing. It's not even written in the textbooks. It's actually laudable. But if there are deficiencies surrounding it and we can strengthen it, yes, we can use it as part of our tools in tackling the exchange problems. Okay. But I don't really know from that story what is really wrong with it.
The former second deputy governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Johnson Isiema, the story says, has voiced strong concerns about the transparency and efficacy of the Gold for Oil program. Okay. And he says the program lacks transparency, and he raised alarm over the program being managed by the Bank of Ghana. He suggested that the current setup is problematic and could be causing financial strain on the central bank. These are his concerns.
So it needs some reform.
Yeah, so what he's saying is that there's not really actually wrong with, something wrong with that policy, but he's calling for transparency the way it is done. And transparency, I think those people who propose it, we want transparency around it, especially if it is really, really working. It should be a welcome intervention. Yes.
Mr. Wan, let's do one more story in your paper, and I'll go to Prof.
There's a special feature in honor of Pastor Mensa Otabil, who is celebrating his 65th birthday. He's done his bit. He's led as a shepherd. He's led a flock to the best of his ability and powered by the Holy Spirit. And
happy birthday to him.
Happy birthday to Pastor Mensa Otabil. May you continue to shine in the vineyard. May you continue to lead many people from darkness to light.
Happy birthday, Pastor Mensa Otabil. Yes. Prof, let's get into your paper now.
Okay. Let me say something briefly about Pastor Mensa Otabil. Even though I'm a Muslim, I've always been inspired when I hear him talk. He say that I think his talks are not just preaching to Christians. it's almost having an audience.
Yeah, it's an inspirational speaker.
Yes, very, very, very inspirational. Yes, so I really enjoy his teachings. And most of it is motivational speaking, how we can become better people. So at least, yes. Okay. I think in the front page, we have rigging not part of MPP.
Is that the Daily Statesman?
Yes, the Daily Statesman. Yes. So rigging not part of MPP, President assured free, fair elections. Kwawu reaffirms loyalty to MPP. Napo questions Mohammed job promises. Processes begin for 2024 school selection. If you go inside, I think it elaborates the stories further. Then headquarters pledge support for Bawumia. I believe it's the KIA group.
Yeah.
And Tanzania Education Ministry allows the National Service Authority.
We can do one interesting story there.
Okay. Okay, maybe I will pick the headquarters pledge for support for Bawumia. Okay, so shall I read further?
Yeah.
Female headquarters, popularly known as KIAs, who are beneficiaries of the KIA Empowerment Program, have pledged their support for the Vice President Mahmoud Bawumia in the upcoming December elections. During the third cohort graduation ceremony in Accra yesterday, the KIA cited Dr. Bawumia's commitment to welfare and tangible benefit they had already begun to experience under his leadership.
Okay.
Yes.
Was that project a government initiative or it's a NPP Bawumia initiative? I'm just asking. Well, no, I know the answer. It's just...
I think he and the MPP, they are one and the same, isn't it? So they are in government, the MPP is in government. And I think the achievements of government can be attributed to him as being a member of the government. So in a way, the headquarters are more or less pledging their support as a form of gratitude for what has been provided for them. I remember there was also accommodation commission at Medina. And yes.
That's the KIA support empowerment program.
Yes. So supporting members, it's by way of comment. I think supporting vulnerable members who are part of our society is always the most laudable thing to do. It's natural that as we develop, we do not leave other people's behind. But I think a long-time program would be to stop them coming in the first place. I'm from that part of the country in northern Ghana. It's always, it always baffles me. Whereas if you come to the capital, you see members of your communities carrying other people's load when they could actually be in school, when other things would be. I think so long-term initiative would be how to really get them to go to schools. And I think, again, you would tie it to the free senior high school, because when you ask some of them the stories as to why they came to Accra in the first place, it's like lack of help back home. There's no help, or they are more or less, families are copying other people who have gone to Accra and Kumasi and become successful in bringing some goodies home. So I think government initiative, the free senior high school is already a good initiative. Maybe our next step would be to educate families. You see that even though I know it's a current trend, it's not just Ghana, people are moving to other better places. Throughout the world,
they're coming in search of greener pastures. And so if there are institutions or if there are activities to engage them that will be profitable for them to make some ends meet, then they wouldn't be trooping down here for... That's
right, yes. And that's maybe we need to actually restructure the economy.
Going forward,
everything shouldn't be in the capital and Kumasi. Yes, and that is why the creation of these new regions actually send more benefits. So everything is concentrated in Accra and Kumasi. It's really a problem for so many people.
Okay. Mr. Moni, final reflections on that story. And I have to do one last story here and then we go.
There's a story which quotes the executive assistant to the CEO of the National Service Scheme, commenting on Bawumia's media encounter.
Oh, okay.
We've heard all sides to that story, and one side has it that it was an opportunity for His Excellency the Vice President to showcase his admirable intellectual depth and remarkable foresight and possibility mindset in facing the challenges of this country. And on the flip side, others see him as failing a crunch test when he made the media, fumbling when he shouldn't have fumbled. And the impression was that he was ill-prepared for this major media encounter, given his background or his accolade as a messiah whiskey.
Economic whiskey. Did you think same? Did you think that it was a failure or that he was ill-prepared?
I'm inclined to believe that, like a typical headmaster's report, Wordama could do better.
More room for improvement.
More room.
Okay.
Certain areas, he did well, but in certain areas too, he provided inordinate details to simple questions.
Was hedging here and there.
Yeah, and he also, you could see that he didn't even anticipate certain questions. And in this game, the number one factor is anticipation. You should anticipate the questions and do justice to the questions.
Yeah.
But it came out that some of the questions were not anticipated, and he had difficulties in handling them. And to quote one on Landers, it says, "The naked truth is better than well-dressed lie."
The naked truth is better than
well-dressed
Well-dressed.
That will be the highlights for my entire week. Let me do this important health story, and then I'll come to you for your final words. So 8 confirmed cases of measles in the Volta region cause for worry, Mr. Jokoto. And I think that is why, this is important. The Volta region has recorded 8 confirmed cases of measles this year. Although this is below the epidemic threshold, it is cause for worry, the Regional Deputy Director of Health in charge of Public Health, Dr. Ghc700m Jokoto, is saying. And he said sustained efforts were needed to strengthen immunization programs in the region and increase and sustain demand for both routine and childhood immunization and COVID-19 vaccination. About 80 risk communication subcommittee members of the Ghana Health Service, heads of departments, unit heads, and all those were, they attended that meeting where he explained that high vaccine uptake was essential for achieving herd immunity and controlling the spread of infectious diseases. And like he said, although this is below the epidemic threshold, it is a cause for worry. And I'm wondering, what's the challenge there with immunization? But your quick reflections and make it your final word as well for me. I'll start with you, Prof.
Okay. I think measles, in this our present world, measles shouldn't be killing anybody. It shouldn't. For me, measles is more or less like a personal thing to me, because my immediate sister who was next to me, we had measles together, and then unfortunately she died.
Oh, I'm
You
sorry.
see that? Yeah. That's about years ago, about 25, 30 years ago. So measles is, in fact, I researched about it when I became a nurse. You just see that measles, the cost of even cure is quite low. So it shouldn't be killing people. I think the rural areas and some countries, we are very happy that we're in Ghana. I think somewhere in Afghanistan, some parts of Pakistan, some people are even against immunization. So I think with, when you see those places, maybe it's a rural area where accessing health services is really a problem.
Yeah.
And I think the Ghana Health Services should do very well to nip the problem in the bud before it emerges, even though it's below the epidemic threshold. But we shouldn't leave any room for any mistakes at all.
Right.
Health services should get there immediately.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Mr. Moni,
yesterday the head of state, His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, made a profound statement in Kumasi.
Yes.
At a meeting with the heads of Methodist Church, and he said he inherited a peaceful country, and he will hand over a peaceful country to whoever wins the elections. I think this demands lots of reflective thinking, because what shall it profit this nation if at the end of the election were engulfed in violence. And the media, in particular, have a key critical role to play by refraining from fanning the flames of tensions and stoking the embers of violence. Every election comes with its own tensions.
Yeah.
Every election induces its own tensions. So the high voltage tensions, red hot anger, the do or die imperatives which characterize our elections are no excuse for violence. Once violence starts, no one can determine how it will end.
Yep.
We have a copious lesson to learn from countries which have disintegrated into something else, all because they allowed violence to fester. And now I was in Liberia soon after the elections, and I saw it with my naked eyes. The level of distraction, the level of deprivation, the poverty, it was so wrenching.
So we should know and do better.
We should do better.
Thank you so much. That is Mr. Afel Moni, former GJA president. And we also have Professor Ishaku Ibrahim, senior lecturer.
Professor.
You are not? Oh, okay. So just Ishaku Ibrahim, senior lecturer at UPSA Law School. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us to review the newspapers. And that's how we're wrapping up for the news review segments. But you know there's still a lot more coming your way on the AM show. We'll be right back.
Thank you.